Welcome to The Shield Within. The issues discussed on the Shield Within podcast do not reflect the opinions of any specific agency. They are the views of the host and the guest. Any persons discussed may be fictional for comedic purposes only. This podcast is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised. Listening to The Shield Within may trigger repressed or suppressed memories or experiences. Please contact a mental health professional at your earliest convenience. It's time for the chaos to cease.
Time to open yourself to peace.
From the hours you've put in.
To the next shift you begin.
From the endless pursuit of release.
That finds the worst unleashed.
Transform the ugly into a win.
Get to know your shield within.
Welcome to The Shield Within.
Welcome, Mark.
This is episode whatever Donnie puts on it. So
somewhere between 1 and 1,000.
Yeah, there we go. And at 1,000, we're going to quit.
That's
no,
right.
I'm teasing. I just realized, the other day we said, oh, yeah, episode 30, but it doesn't sound like a lot, but considering the fact we only do 2 a month, that's a lot of episodes.
That's right, man.
But we don't want to rush things, do we?
No. Take your time.
That's right. Mental health needs to take its time. I don't want to be in a position to where we're repeating things. I always want to keep it fresh and keep you.
We don't need to feel pressure.
Right.
Yeah.
And it keeps you wanting more.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's such a high quality show. Don't you agree there, Mr. Hat?
I totally agree. Yeah. Totally agree.
So welcome. So and we're going to do some business here. So if you're on Facebook, and we know you're one of the old fuckers. We don't do Twitter. Well, I do a little bit of Twitter and Instagram. I started Instagram, The Shield Within.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So everyone see us there.
Up to date.
But Facebook / The Shield Within, or stop by our website, www.theshieldwithin.com. Rub the belly of Hedgehog Donnie, and something nice may happen to you. It's just like a.
We should sell figurines of Hedgehog Donnie.
Like a Buddha.
Right. Sit in the middle of the day. Rub his belly.
Yeah, or have like a hand lotion dispenser so you rub his belly and
you pop his head and lotion shoots out.
That could be disgusting.
That's a gold mine, Mark. Gold mine. It's gold.
Yeah, rub Donnie's belly and he'll squirt all over you. Don't play with his hose. Sorry, we're going down a path we're never going to come back. So if that traumatized you may need to
you come to the right place.
That's right.
Dr. David.
You may have to hire Dr. David. And you could do that by going to www.lessonslearnedcoaching.com. And they'll say, we listened to your show, and Marc the Cop is like really graphic about FD Tony. He's going to listen to this when he's editing and say, fuck you guys. He's not here to defend himself. So who have we got around the table, Dr. David?
Hello, this is Dr. David.
And?
The Kelly.
And?
The Susan.
Sainted Susan. And
Saint Susan.
The Mr. Hats.
Mr. Hat's here with us tonight. And we just want to talk about some different aspects of mental health. Mm-hmm. And the last episode when we were working together, we were talking about, getting back to the 4 F's and doing the things that make you happy again.
Yeah.
In those favorite activities.
Yeah.
So when we were talking about unchecked trauma, unchecked, unresolved PTSD, what do we start doing? What are some of our symptoms? And I know when I was deep into my darkness, I didn't want to be around anybody. I spent a lot of time here alone. And the aloneness kind of got to be a habit. And, people would call, hey, man, let's go. Yeah, that sounds good. And I'd never show up.
Yeah.
Or I just wouldn't answer the phone. So soon the phone call stopped coming. And the text stopped coming.
Right.
And I found myself isolating more. But then I was resenting because nobody was calling anymore.
Right.
So then it becomes a cycle.
Yes. Becomes addictive.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And then the worst place to be is alone and in your own head.
Yes.
That's very dangerous.
It's a deadly place to spend time. Yeah.
That's a great way you said that.
It's such a risk to spend that time all by yourself with no real connection to anybody other than yourself, any activity, any community of people. You start shutting out everything that's new or could be new. I mean, literally, I've had people, I don't know if I'm going to like that or not. And so I just stay here. And the isolation becomes insulation, and people get so comfortable in that insulation that they let nothing in and they don't reach out. End result is misery. And a lot of it's, as we've all talked and before on the reason that we're kind of here, is one of the things it leads to is suicidal thinking.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it does.
You have nobody in your life, partially because you're not putting any effort into having anybody into your life. Mm-hmm. And you're not letting anybody into your life at the same time. And you're miserable. And nothing's changing. And you don't see an end of the misery. You start feeling trapped in the misery. Suicidal thinking becomes something that's attractive. And you kind of like think about it enough that it becomes familiar. It starts to have power, and it starts to attract you. You could get out of this. And it's deadly. Mm. So climbing out of your head, if you want to stay alive, or if somebody around you wants you to stay alive, that's the thing that just blows me away. There was a lovely thing I was looking about Scott Meldon stuff, and it led me to some other things about the ripple effect of suicide.
Oh, yes.
And I remember there was a kid in Tip City High School about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit more, who committed suicide. And then one of his friends called me from school and came up to see me in the office, and she was just completely blown away. And I've seen this happen so many times, where I end up working with somebody, a family member, a child, a spouse, a neighbor, a friend, of somebody who commits suicide, and it does something to all the people in that person's life.
Oh, yes.
You cannot possibly predict, because you're sitting in your cave, you're insulated and convinced yourself that this is exactly what you need, and then you never start to think about all the people that are going to be affected when you take your own life.
Oh, yeah.
And the incredible shit that they go through in their head because you take your own life. They start their own, oh my God, I didn't do enough. I could have said this. Why didn't I pay attention to? They review all this stuff like they had some control over it. And so you get one person that commits suicide and 10 others that are just like blown away by the whole thing. Teachers, other students, employers, co-workers, you didn't even knew you existed practically.
Or you didn't think that they knew you existed. That's the biggest thing, is that I had a friend, and you remember that, Susan? Remember when there was a colleague that I worked with when I was in the car business that suddenly committed suicide. That was my first experience with depression. I never knew anything about it, and I was depressed for like a week. And sadly, I was a young police officer at the time, and my colleague had taken the call, and here, man, check this out, and he handed me photographs of my friend. He never gave me the opportunity to say, I don't want to fucking see that. And I threw them back at him. And I'm like, fuck you, motherfucker. What'd you fucking do that to me for? Well, you can't take it? Oh, I'm more incapable than looking at pictures of deceased people, but that was my friend. Now, that's the only image that I have of him.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that was very, very unfair of you to do that.
Absolutely.
You know, and I've always thought about that in my career.
Yeah.
You know, I have some photos, you know, I wouldn't want to look at them again, but if you want to, you know, other cops, you know, you kind of have that. It's kind of like the train wreck, you know, you want to watch it, but you don't want to see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that really upset me. And it really upset me more that he didn't give me that opportunity.
Right.
You utilize that, though, in training all of us you were very specific about, you shared that incident and you reminded all of us, like, hey, just so you know, don't go just showing your colleagues photos of crime scenes that you've seen. Like, and we weren't all just, I mean, they're not just sitting around the department. That sounds kind of reckless.
Right.
But for different things, like if you were to do a follow-up for something and you might need to access it, like, don't go clicking the PDFs. You don't need to see those pictures, you know, leave the curiosity there.
Yeah.
But that was something that you had shared with us. You told us about that story and it was like, whoa. So now I'm always super cautious ahead of time. Like,
Well, yeah, because you get
don't wanna
jaded
share,
after a while.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
just
know,
in case.
And what we don't realize is what are the things that depress us? That what are those triggers? What are those things that start darkening our soul? And the things that make us, you know, but that push out the light, and you know, that isolation, staying alone, staying here in your property or wherever you're at by yourself, and you know, the get the fuck away from me. You become that grumpy old man. Go ahead, honey.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, sometimes you're alone, but you're not by yourself because you're shutting your family out. And
Oh,
I think
yeah.
as a wife of first responder,
Right.
I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that can relate to that.
Absolutely right.
Right, and hopefully this is after when we have a wives special we're doing, and I was producing that episode. Dr. David ran it, and I was really engaged, and I can't wait to hear it. At the time of this recording, it hasn't been edited yet, and I can't wait to get it because the time I was in the room, because I was bouncing between the green room and here, it doesn't sound fancy. We have a green room. I was on the back porch smoking
was green,
cigar.
a lot of
I was-
green grass out there.
Yeah, we was out there in the grass. So
green.
Mr.
Grass is
Hat
beautiful.
and FD Donnie was out back, just like, you know, they were shaking like a dog shit in razor blades. And I'm like, guys, relax.
I'm scared to hear
What are
it.
they saying in there?
I'm scared to hear it. I'm scared to know. I mean, I know what I'm going to hear, but I'm scared to hear it.
No, you think you know what you're going to hear.
But like
You do
what,
think you
like
know,
what
but a
St. Susan said,
snippet is-
like I'm not
One at a
alone,
time, guys.
Well, like what she was saying, I'm not alone, but I feel like I'm alone. And why am I alone? Because that's the path I go down. Like, oh, I need isolation. I just need to be by myself. But there's people there and shutting them out and pushing them off.
Beautiful.
That's hard to hear now, as you know, and like I did that with my kids, and the situation I'm in right now, I get sad and like, oh, I don't, my kids aren't there. But as soon as I get the courage to call them, I'm like, well, why did I wait a week and a half or 2 weeks to call them?
Right.
And so then on my side, I'm like, man, what a dick. It's terrible. But in my head, I'm like, well, I don't want to bother my kids. They know our situation, and I don't want to put that burden on them. They don't care.
But see, you're coming up with reasons not to talk
Right.
to your children, and you're coming up
In
with
my
reasons.
head.
Yes.
Right, and you're coming up with reasons not to engage. Kelly, you were about to make a point. Did you still have it?
Well, yeah, I was going to say that a lot, like that episode is very important to listen to, not just for the spouses that weren't in there,
Right.
but for everybody, because we talked about why do these women stay after all the shit that, you know, law enforcement officers put them through. And it's not, you know, everybody's like, oh, domestic violence is so rampant in police. That is not what it is. It's the emotional disconnects.
Right.
It's the, you know, the separation that equals hostility
Right.
in their minds,
Right.
because you're ignoring me. So now it's aggressive,
Right.
even though it's just silence.
Right. And I know that, but I'm scared to hear it. You know what I mean? Like, I know it. I know they feel that way.
I can't wait
But to
for you to
hear it is gonna like.
I think.
You know what I mean?
I think you're
maybe I'm
going to
not-
be pleasantly surprised.
Right.
I was
Jeff.
very happy to be a part of it.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a first responder wife, but I am a wife that
Yeah.
Is a first
was a
responder,
first
and that's
responder.
Right.
you
And
know.
so it was emotional for me. I'll tell you. because
I've heard that. I heard that. Yeah.
These women were saying stuff, and I was
Right.
like, and that's me.
That's me,
And like,
right.
I was the bad
Right.
person in the room all of a sudden.
Right. It's hard
I'm
to
like, I
hear,
do that
but it's
shit to my
true.
husband.
And
Yeah.
that's the hard thing, is to take in, like, I was a dick. I was this. I was
Well,
cut
Jeff,
off.
but don't
But-
stop. Okay, just I'm gonna call you out on
Maybe
that.
I didn't
No,
say
dude.
that, but
No. I don't want you to beat yourself up.
Yeah.
You weren't a dick. Think about the information we were given as young officers.
Correct.
The worst
Yeah.
fucking information in the
Yeah.
world. And if you're a young officer and you're listening to this podcast, go home and share that shit with your family.
Right.
Go home and lean on your spouse. Go home and share it. She may not understand what you saw,
Right.
but she understands you.
She wants to know.
and she
Right.
wants to know, and she wants to be sure you can jump in anytime. She's just like, you go, boy. Yeah.
Right.
They can handle it.
Right.
Well, and you don't have to share all of the gory details.
Yeah.
But sharing your feelings and
Right.
sharing how it made you feel, and and just opening up
Sure. Your
keeps
wife.
that relationship between you and your spouse
Well,
versus shutting them
it's
down.
a form of intimacy.
and growing
You don't have to
apart.
go home and fuck it out, so to speak.
Right.
What that form of intimacy though is where you're going to go home and share that. You're going to have those close moments, and if it makes you cry, then fucking cry.
Exactly.
If you got to go, like what Dr. David said before, take that tennis racket and whack the fuck out of the couch.
Right.
Go do that, or the big piece of wood, or go whatever. Back like the Punisher in there, beating walls down with a sledgehammer.
Yeah.
And
But
revisit
then-
it again.
Right. Right.
Because it's not going to settle the first night. It's not going to
No.
settle the second night.
It's
You need
not.
to revisit that.
That's the hard part.
You need to revisit it in a month and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But keep going back to the well, because I can tell you with our critical incident, it happened. We survived it. I'm not a fucking basket case anymore because of it.
Right.
And why?
Right.
Is because of all the work we did
Yeah.
with Dr. David, with Jerry, with Dr. Hall. I spent a lot of money to heal that.
Right.
Otherwise, it was going to end me.
Yes.
And I had to decide, am I bigger than this incident, or is the incident bigger than me? I had to, and like what you said in a past episode, it happened once, but stop punishing yourself for life over it.
Exactly.
And I was punishing myself for life over it. Yeah. But to get back to what Kelli just said, you're going to come back to it. Yeah, you're going to come back to it and heal it. If you need to go get the stellate ganglion block, reach out to us. We have sources.
Right.
Find an EMDR therapist like Victoria Martin. Go up and see her. Martin Counseling and Consultation. It's on our Facebook page, or go look her up. She's currently taking clients. She's a great EMDR therapist. I would recommend our friend Jerry, but Jerry's getting ready to retire. He's dialing it back, but I think that if I call him with a client that really needs help, he'll take him.
Right.
Just like you would.
Yeah.
Just not at Tuesdays at 11:15.
Not Tuesday 11:15, because that's when Mr. Hat's there farting up the couch. So, but find a good therapist and create that rapport, and get in and see him and heal those things that are going wrong. And I taught at the police academy today, and we have a fairly small class, so I not only teach them the subject we have, I teach them a little bit about what's really like being a cop.
Right.
What is life really like? And I talked about mental health.
Right.
I didn't really pump the podcast, but I did, and I talked about how the average citizen has 2, maybe 3 major traumas in their life. And for some people, it just fucking ruins them.
Right. Absolutely true.
And they're all like, well, yeah. I said, no, you're getting ready to get into a profession where you're going to have 700 to 800 major traumas. How are you going to handle it? Go ahead.
Yeah. And sitting there, they can't even imagine.
They have no
that's
clue.
like.
They have no clue.
Because the range of experiences they will go through, the range of experiences you all went through. My God, how do you anticipate that shit? You can't.
Until we did this program, I had no idea the amount of traumas this young lady went through in the first 2 weeks of her career. How many major traumas did you have in the first 2 weeks? The first 14, no, wasn't it? Taking the days off out.
Yeah. Taking the days off out, it was 14 days.
Yeah, there you go.
14 working days. I'd never, ever experienced, I have grandparents, but I never experienced a death.
Yeah.
And I'm not close with, my family wasn't close with their parents. So my dad was adopted and we never knew his family. So, most kids or young adults would experience maybe a grandparent dying or somebody close to them, and I never experienced any of that.
Wow.
There was a gentleman who was very, very supportive of the police department. And he came to like all the events that the police department would be at, and he was always very friendly, and I had met him a couple times. In fact, he was at my swear-in.
Okay.
And he also subsequently was my first dead body.
Oh, wow.
And so I had two things back to back, right? So like this guy that I know has now passed away, which was sad.
Right.
But I'm the officer that is now in charge, but I'm training, right? So like I'm in charge of doing the scene and learning at that point.
Right.
And the sergeant that I had at the time, thank God for her. And that's probably one of two times I'll ever say that. my FTO was like, we walk in and I knew it was a DOA.
Okay.
When we got there,
Yeah.
and we get out of the car, and there was no prep time or anything like that, and I'm just brand new, right? The creases in my uniform are still that, like, everything is still very green. We go in, and it wasn't just like, a calm, he passed in his sleep. He had a heart attack in the restroom, so like he was partially nude.
Right.
And so I hadn't seen old man butt before, and so that was kind of alarming.
Well,
And then, just taking in the scene, and then his wife is screaming still because we're very close to where, the department was very close, and it was like second call. And I just remember like feeling all these emotions suddenly. I didn't know how to deal with a grieving wife who knew her husband was not coming back.
Right.
And she knew he was deceased for a little bit, and it had happened at night, and she was blaming herself because he wanted to stay on the main floor. They lived in a very nice 2-story house, and he wanted to sleep on the couch because he wasn't feeling good. And she said, okay, I'm going to go to bed. She blamed herself the entire morning with that. And it was just like a rush of emotions, right? Because like, I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman, I just, this is so sad for her. And she's tears. And then this guy, and I'm like, I'm really sad that, this fella has passed away, because I just saw him, a couple days ago at my official swearing ceremony. And then the training officer is like, if you can't handle this, you need to go. And I'm like, it's not that I can't handle it. I just need a second.
well, right. And
like,
that's a lot to process for someone who hasn't been around that.
All
And
of
shame
it.
on him for acting that way.
Never ever seeing it. A fresh dead body is very, very alarming. I mean, now it's nothing, but your first one is very emotional. And the sergeant came in, and she could see and read my face and my emotions. And she's like, come here, Kelli. And she grabs me, and she's like, listen, I can see that, tell me what you're feeling. And I was like, I've never seen a dead body before. I've never even experienced death in the way that this wife is now experiencing it immediately. Right. Like, I had been to funerals, but you have time to think about it before the actual ceremony.
Yeah, and they're all cleaned up and nice and
And then,
made up.
and the celebration, and actually, come to think of it, I'd only been to celebrations of life because my dear aunt did pass away, but it was a celebration of life at a park.
Right.
And so it wasn't like, there's not like a deceased body, and, and so it was just so much. And I'm so thankful that she took me out of that, because that FTO at the time was like, you're not cut out for this. And I'm like, I just need some direction on how to handle this. Just tell me how to process it.
Well, and he probably never said, hey, have you been around a dead body before? He never asked those preparatory questions.
He just hit the shit out of the cruiser all the time, and everybody that listens to the podcast who's been trained by him will confirm. But she told me, you need to, the easiest way to process it, and I'll share it. She said, you at this point you treat the body as another piece of furniture within the crime scene,
Right.
and so, or the event scene. It wasn't a crime. He passed away because he natural causes, but taking the life out of the body mentally is all I needed to be told.
Yeah.
Like, somebody just needed to say, hey, Cal, that's now a piece of furniture because you believe in God and you know that he's in heaven. And like, so there's that. And I was like, great, thanks.
Right.
That's all I needed.
Yeah.
15 minutes. And I was like, okay. And now I go back into helping mode. I need to comfort her and help her with the next steps and keep her the heck out of this restroom.
Right.
Like keep her out of there, like keep her out of the area, you know,
Right.
get control of the scene. But again, you know, this is my first experience.
Right.
And then it was just on to, like, again, no time to process it. Right from, and I mean, we weren't hopping.
Got to go from there and go write some tickets.
Yeah, like we weren't like we had. Yeah, like exactly.
Right.
We didn't need to go and do that. We could have taken some time.
Yes.
To address that.
Right.
Because then later on, that became the unchecked trauma
Yes.
that we were talking about. It's like
Exactly.
that was alarming. You know, and that person was my FTO.
Yeah.
And that person was the praised FTO, who then trained multiple people. After
He's so
I did.
great. Yeah, he's so neurotic is what he was. It's like, good God.
Yeah.
What was your next big one after that?
The next big one was a very good friend's brother had drowned.
Yeah, that was
But he was a fellow first responder at the same exact city. that I
he was in
worked
fire. Yeah, he was a fireman
And
with FD.
him, I mean, he was amazing. He's an amazing person. He still is. He's
Yeah,
great.
great guy.
He's a great guy. Fantastic business owner. Great husband. But at the same time, that all of, you know, you're learning everything. Like suddenly now it's the second event, but instead of just knowing this person,
Yes.
now you know his family.
Yes.
And his dad, like his dad is one of the biggest supporters.
Oh, love that man.
Oh my
I
gosh.
love that guy. What a great dude.
He is like
These
he
are salt of the
my
earth people.
They are, and they just check on you. Like they'll be driving down the road and they'll wave you down and they'll be like, "How are you?
Yeah, how you
know,
doing,
like,
man?
How are you doing?
Ain't seen you in a
Do need
little while."
anything?"
Yeah.
Yeah, just like, you know, truly give the shirt off their back for you.
Yeah, don't go to lunch because he'll pick your bill up for you. so.
yeah. And so then that was the next major event.
Yeah.
And we had a debrief at the department, but a lot of it was everybody was getting in trouble.
Oh yeah, my
Everybody
boss
was getting in trouble.
My boss was on
for-
vacation and lost his fucking.
It was just like
mind.
right outside the city limits, and
Stone's throw. It was a stone's throw.
yeah,
away.
and so we were just all, you know, we're there, we're at the department, and like people are getting mad at us, like command staff, and we're
No,
like,
just the command staff was mad.
we're gonna be there for
Because
the
you were
meeting.
outside the city?
Well,
Or why were they
Yeah,
mad?
here's the problem with that.
It was
Kelly was at a ride along. I was not the senior sergeant on scene.
No, not that.
The senior sergeant on scene crumbled. Oh no, you take care of it. I'll be over here. And we have a
It was
thing
right
called
at shift change too.
It was a shift change, yeah. So we had both shifts out there, and I forget, was I on? I was on evenings. Yeah, I was the evening
Yeah, you
sergeant,
were
and the day
evening.
shift sergeant was there. So, and the jurisdiction that should have been there wasn't. They sent one of their members, and that was it. Their lieutenant came out. Hey, you need anything? I'm like, yeah, I need you to take over the scene. Oh, you got it. Thanks. And left. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a critical incident.
Debrief, right?
No, not the debrief. I mean, there's rules for for critical incidents.
Okay.
Who's your scene commander? Well, how do you find the commander's vehicle? It's got a green flashing light on top. They were bringing in ODNR with side sweeping sonar and boats, and the fire department. The chief at the time, God rest his soul, Steve Kessler, was there, and he's like, I need a public information officer because fucking news media showed up in droves.
Right.
So he said, "Hey, Sarge, go ahead."
I was just going to say, you didn't say they had not found the body.
We had not found
But
him
you
yet.
knew who it was?
Oh,
So-
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, shit.
Absolutely.
You knew who it was. You knew the body
Yeah.
was there, but they had not
Well,
found
yeah,
the body.
okay.
It
So
was
we-
no longer a rescue.
But
it was a recovery.
it was, but we didn't say that. When I went out there and they asked me, Sarge, is this a recovery or a rescue? This is a rescue. We are doing everything we can to find this young man. And the ODNR come rolling in, and they brought several boats down because it was an old gravel pit. And So we were managing that. We had to work on logistics, like feeding the first responders that were there.
Oh, my.
So I called our local pizza place, DJ's Pizza, Allie, and God rest her soul, Holly Tennant. They were closed on that
love
day,
Holly.
and I called up there, and Holly answered, and or I think she had call forwarding somehow, but she's like, "No, I'll be in." So she came in and made everybody pizzas and brought them down to the scene. We fed everybody. I fed the news media that was there. I pulled money out of my wallet and I sent one of my officers up to the store to get cases of water because we had to hydrate the first responders that were there. And we're just taking care of people. I was doing my job as a sergeant, taking care of people.
Yeah.
And when they had a news bite, they needed that. Okay, so if you need to know how to work the news media, Jeff, Mr. Hatt and I worked with him quite a bit. When is your deadline? When do you need when do you need your deadlines done? When do you need your sound bites done by? Your teasers, and they're like, "Oh, we really appreciate you doing this."
Right.
And we had a couple females out there from the news media, and there's no place to pee. So I called another car down. I said, take these ladies back to the PD so they can relieve themselves. And they did. So I was taking care of business. We had a new city manager at the time, and he was a little overbearing. Instead of calling me and saying, "Hey, Sarge, what's going on out there?" He calls
The chief.
the chief. And where's that drunk asshole at? Well, he's in Florida. And do you think that asshole called me and said, "Hey, Marc the Cop, what's going on out there? What's happening?"
I know you got it, but what's up?
He calls the dipshit that he left in charge, who is home and clueless of what's going on.
No idea.
And did he bother calling me and say, "Hey, Sarge, what's going on?" Well, I don't know what's going. Let's turn on the TV. Well, Mark's just out there being a camera whore. That's what they're thinking. Well, they forgot the fact that this is a pre-described setup. It's NIMS training.
Yes.
Yeah, NIMS
Yes,
training.
NIMS.
Yeah. So fire chief's in charge.
National
he needs people doing
management.
Whatever. So we're going by the book. We're doing what we're trained to do. We're managing a critical incident. There's a lot of people coming and going. There's a lot of people showing up. There's a lot of our citizens showing up. So now we have a crowd control issue.
You don't have time to
Did
call.
I mention we had one person from that agency there
Who left?
No, there was one guy there.
Okay.
But the manager, the lieutenant, left.
Okay.
He could have brought resources down there and relieved us so we could go back to our city.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
But they never asked me that. They never bothered to ask me
And you
that.
don't have time to call people that don't give a shit or don't need to know at that point.
Right.
It's too early to.
He could have called the fire chief and got all the answers he needed.
Right.
I remember the chief was sitting there in his, because we didn't have uniform communications. He had 4 radios laying in front of him. He would talk to ODNR on one. He would talk to our dispatch on the other. He would talk to someone else on the other, and he would talk to. He was there in the incident command post directing, and he needed me to keep that gate closed and keep the press out there so he could do his job so we could find this boy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that's why my boss was mad, because
Jesus.
the boss of the other jurisdiction, PP, was sore because Marc the Cop was on TV. That's our presser. We need to be out there. Well, then fucking show up. Your guy was here, but you never asked that. It was always easier to.
And they're not concerned about, hey, how are you? How's your staff doing? How's you guys need anything?
No, they didn't.
Do you guys need anything?
Kelly, did they ever ask you how you were doing?
Yeah. It's how dare you?
No.
How dare you this? How dare you that?
No, but I would have been
And,
upset, I think, at that time if they would have asked me how I was doing, because I was so concerned about the family that was actually on site.
Yeah.
Right. So after he gets done chewing my ass out, I said, with all due respect, are you done? Yeah. I said, I wasn't the sergeant in charge, right?
Right.
What do you mean? Sergeant so-and-so was in charge. And as you wave in my face all the time, she was the senior sergeant in charge. But thanks for giving me an ass chewing that I was not responsible for.
Oh, she did a fine job, though.
Yeah.
Fine job piecing out.
Yeah, piecing out and doing nothing. But, and then he just sat back in his chair. Never said I'm sorry. Because, what would you say? The sheriff was a little bruised because, it's my agency.
That's a lot
I'm
of vote.
sorry, sir. You could have came down and relieved us. We most graciously would have left.
Did the
And let you
fire
take care of it.
department have an official debrief for them as well?
They did. Yeah. Yeah.
Was it the
they
same
always
person
did.
that came to do ours?
No.
Oh, okay.
They had a round table down there. I don't think I went. For whatever reason, I didn't go. I think I was still pretty fucking salty for getting my ass chewed out for doing my job.
I remember being there, but I don't remember who it was.
That incident is on YouTube. We found it one night scrolling through YouTube.
Oh.
Yeah. But that was up for a while.
I think that's something I won't
So-
be YouTubing.
Right. Well, so there
I'm good
we
with what I
go.
got.
You're 2 weeks in, and you're dealing with the dead. You're dealing with
Yeah.
a major incident.
Right.
All 3 networks were there.
Yeah.
Multiple agencies were there. She was stationed back. I know where you guys were. I mean, we had to do some 4-wheeling. I remember having water almost up to my windows because I was in a 4x4. I was able to navigate, through water. Thankfully, I was trained in how to do that. So we're hoping and praying that we just find him. So finally they found him once they got OD and Argon in there, and he was right where he last place he was seen. He was in blue jeans, and he promised his daddy he would wear his life preserver, and he didn't. All that was in the car.
Yeah.
But that was a tragic event, and that family was so thankful. I sent one of my cars out to their house to get his mother to bring her to the scene, and they were very, very thankful, very grateful, and they didn't know until a couple of years later how bad our management ripped our ass
Yeah.
for doing that for them. And he's like, "Fuck that guy! I'll go chew his fucking ass." No.
Yeah.
Bro, at this point in time, it doesn't matter. But I know that you feel that way. And
Yeah.
he hugged me and he said, "Sarge, you did the right thing. You're a stand-up guy." And I appreciate that to this day. I love those folks. They're great people.
Definitely.
But and we talk about how trauma stick in your head.
Right.
It did not stick in my head that Kelli was there until a couple episodes ago when she talked about that, and I went, "Fuck me."
Yeah.
That was her second or third week on the job, because I was so focused on everything else that was going on there that kind of fell into the peripheral.
Well, I also was not directly on your shift yet.
No, you weren't. No, you
So-
were still in training, so you were still in the day shift rotation of it. But we talk about things that stick.
Yes.
And I started reading Travis House's book, Create Your Own Light. And as I was flying to Florida, when me and St. Susan drove our horses home, I was reading it, and they were talking about, and House was talking about how trauma affects you. And I can't remember what I had for lunch last week, but I can remember being abandoned by my mother when I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't left, just that I was taking a nap and she was out in the backyard hanging laundry, but I thought I'd been abandoned, right? And how trauma plants memories in your mind that don't go away. And Travis House was talking about being ran over by a golf cart when he was 3 years old. And he remembers what he was wearing. He remembers what his sister was wearing. And he remembers the neighbor coming out and holding his little hand and saying, "We're going to get this off of you." Because the golf cart went over him and had him pinned. And the guys picked it up and what his dad said. And his mom's like, "Oh, you don't remember that? You were just a little kid." And he said when he described it to the last detail to his mother, she was shocked. And as we were talking about that incident, I remember I could smell the flowers. I could smell the water. I could feel the heat on my skin from that day because it was a warm summer afternoon. I remember smelling the lake water as my cruiser went down through it. I drove a Ford Expedition. I remember standing on the riverbank feeling the humidity. So those are all the things as I'm talking to you guys and I'm describing that event. I remember sweating.
Yes.
But all those memories and those experiences are locked in my head.
Correct.
Because I haven't healed that trauma. And that's where we talk about why do you remember so much and why do you get so emotional whenever you go through these things. Now that wasn't a bad trauma. That was a sad trauma.
Right. Right.
But Kelli, I'm sure you probably have similar reflections, don't you?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, like, to get in, yeah. I mean, it's there's no words that can describe the emotion that comes with that.
Exactly.
But moving forward too, the next event, right? There was 3 major events within.
What was the next one?
So the next one wasn't within that 2-week period or the 14 days. The next one was the year end when I was then by myself. And that was with my sister-in-law's uncle who was murdered very violently. And for whatever reason, I was like, pick me. I would love to be a part of this. Tell me how I can help. And so I was doing, the crime scene log, like who comes in and just sitting at the end and thinking I want to be a part of this. And my sister-in-law and I still talk about it today because I see the individual that came to the police department to report her brother missing. She comes to all of my sister-in-law's family things, like, because she has children, which are my nieces and nephews. And so we'll be at mutual events and she'll be like, I'll never forget how hard you worked on my brother's case. And I'm like, oh, and I feel like I did absolutely nothing because I was still brand new. Right. So I didn't do anything of major importance. But
to her, you did a lot.
Yeah. And I was actually there when BCI came and discovered all the blood spatter at the house.
Right.
And they didn't really know ahead of time because the house was super clean.
Yeah.
So
super clean.
Very clean, like fresh paint and everything. And so BCI had come out and, I'm doing my little crime scene log and I'm like, BCI's here and this is the agent and this is the other agent. And they were inside and the guy, again, he has no idea that I know this individual, on a family level. And he goes, hey, you want to come in here and look at this?
Nope.
Right.
I wish, but here I am.
Okay.
Yep. Sure do.
Yeah.
And I come in and I get to see where he had sprayed the luminol. No, it was Starbright or something. It's not Starbright. That's a kid's toy.
Right. Luminol is what you're talking about.
Yeah, but it's like this other chemical. And he was like, he sprayed it and you could just see.
It lit right up, didn't it?
Immediately where they were striking him with a baseball bat.
Is this on Shoup Road? Is this the one on
No,
Shoup?
this is on Evanston.
Evanston. I'm sorry, that's what I meant.
York Meadows. So, so I'm like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, look, and I'm sitting there and then you start to say, okay, wow, from a law enforcement perspective. And that is not a case that sits with me in a negative way at all, which is very weird because, and I was just talking with my sister-in-law about this after we had talked about, those major things that had happened there I had experienced within a very short amount of time. And I told her it doesn't sit with me in a negative way, I think, because I felt like I was helping more than I was harming or more than I was hindering. And just kind of being that person that connected the department to them personally.
Right.
So, of course, like they didn't tell me anything new. The detectives weren't like, hey, we got this or we know this and, go tell. But it was just that they had used me as maybe a little bit of solace, I think, within the department.
Sure.
So that one didn't sit negative with me at all. But when Sergeant and I were talking about all the things that we went through, I was like, okay, yeah. And I started remembering the smells. And I remember my favorite pen that was missing on this crime log. Like, where did this pen go? And did this BCI agent take it? Things I have no business remembering.
Right.
Small details that get planted deep within your mind. And that's what trauma is. And that's how you resolve a lot of this. Is that you go and you find a good EMDR therapist. And if you work on it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. David, and it doesn't unstick, do it again.
Exactly. It's unusual to get everything done in one EMDR treatment session.
Oh, yes.
You're going to do more than one, and you may do, it wasn't unusual for some of my women who had been incest survivors from years before, who we would go in and do a couple of sessions and then a couple of months later be like, okay, I got some more to work on. And we do it in phases. It's okay. There's no timetable that says this is the right way and this is the wrong way. No. It's your way. So it's the right way, your way. And EMDR is part of the treatment, but like we've been talking, the 4 F's are a big part of getting better. when you connect with people, when you connect with your spouse, your children, your friends, your faith, your things that make you happy, your favorite activities, then, man, that helps the recovery big time. Thing that gets dangerous is sticking in your head, like we started. You get isolated. You think it feels like the only thing you got going for you is to be alone. Once you're inside your head, wow.
Yeah.
It's a shitty place to be.
It's a shitty
I can
place
tell
to
you,
be.
inside my head is a dark, dank. It's a horrible place to be, you know, and especially dealing with those unstuck traumas. You know, I can say that, and I put this on Facebook the other day, that keep moving forward, keep taking those steps, keep pushing. You know, I got some people out there, some people I check in on every day that's, you know, really in a bad spot, but just keep taking that one step forward every day.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, my last 4 years of my life have been horrible, just horrible. But I'm happy today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I'm damn happy today. You know, my faith has pushed me through. I'm doing the favorite activities I like to do again.
Yep.
I have great friends that I talk to every day.
Right.
In fact, Susan was giving me shit. She's like, "Who you texting over there?" And I'm like, "I'm doing my good mornings."
Yeah.
The group chat.
You know,
Yeah.
we got our group chat, and there's some other individuals that I'm helping that I text individually. And, you know, so I got friends and favorite activities and my faith and, you know, my family. And, you know, Jen texted today or called today while I was teaching, you know, but you got to get back to that. And it's such a critical thing. And if you got something stuck and you've done EMDR and it's still there,
Go back.
do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's really, and that's what I was telling people the other day. You ever see Dr. David get jacked? when you're really doing some good stuff and you're doing some good work, and he gets fucking spun. That's what soothes your soul, isn't it?
Like Vicky said in her episode, yes.
Yeah, there it is.
Right.
You get to it, and it is.
Yeah, and you find that healing spot, and I'm really proud of Jeff for the work that he's done. And you know, I know that he's worked real hard to make things better in his life, and you don't realize how far down that rabbit hole you've gotten until you're there.
And you start climbing up out of it.
Right.
Oh my God!
And the thing I've learned is this is a lifelong. Like I'm not going to get fixed next month or in 6 weeks. Or I made the commitment. This is a lifelong journey to get.
Well, you're never going to be the same,
right?
And that's what I want a lot of first responders to know.
You can't get fixed in a couple of days, though. You know what I mean?
You're not going to be the person you used to be.
Right.
I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago.
I mean, Susan could say
or
that,
when I retired.
You know, I'm not the same dude you married 30 years ago. 30 whatever years ago. Sorry, don't know the number.
That's an issue we'll discuss later.
I'm not the same dude.
Right.
No.
I'm totally different.
Yeah.
And PTSD physically changes your brain.
Yes, it does.
But in a way, some of that is good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The changes.
Yeah, there's a lot more good than bad.
Yeah. Every day's a new beginning.
It is.
That's what I...
But I want you all to know, the people that are listening, I mean, there's a bunch of flawed people sitting around this table, isn't there, Dr.
We've all
David?
struggled. We've all called each other in a time of need.
And we literally have.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, there's a night where Kelli saved my life. You know, she got in trouble next day at work, but she chose to sit up with me because I was really suicidal that night. And she said, "Come down, and I'll sit with you. I can't come up there, but if you come down, I'll sit with you."
I've called Dr. Dave a few months ago, like second ring, and it was late at night. Hey, let's talk for a minute, and it's there, man. Just it's okay.
It's worth it.
Reach out, man.
Yeah, reach out, and you know, have that person there.
Yeah.
But you have to keep working your program.
Yeah.
Right.
The gym.
Exactly.
Get in the gym.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
You have to.
That's
work.
a great analogy. You guys just keep working out, man.
Yeah, and heal those parts of you. Find that EMDR therapist. You know, if you get to that part to where you're stuck, reach out to another therapist. It's okay. I mean, I was at a point in my journey where my therapist was like, I just don't feel like I'm doing you any good.
Right.
And I reached out to Dr. Hall. And she said, sure, come on down. And within an hour, by golly, I was fixed.
Yeah.
And just...
Let me just say, though, the EMDR, like, I'm just starting that. And I'm starting, like, we got to the point where there's some childhood shit I'm starting.
Right.
And the work up to that is hard. It's like, I haven't thought of some stuff, and there's some things there that I haven't realized yet.
Right.
He's like, hey, when we start this, these things might come up because there's something there. And so it is hard.
Yeah.
It is really hard. It's really emotional.
Yes.
I lose a lot of sleep. I lose a lot of, but I know, like, hey, when we get there, it's going to be worth it. So
Right.
The rewards will be worth it.
and I'm probably the best person to tell you if you put the work in. Like, I'm like, let's forget it. Let's isolate it. Let's pack it up. That's my motto for 51 years.
Yeah.
But I made a commitment to myself, like, I got to do it. And it sucks. But it's the reward. I see reward out of it. And even prior to getting to the MDR, the worksheets, and there's some things that we're doing. It's hard, but do it.
Well, David has brought up several times. What things do first responders bring into the job? What is all this shit you got that you've buried?
Right. Even before getting in the job.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you add to
And then
it.
you're like, let's be a police officer.
Right.
That's a great idea.
Right.
Because I want to go help people.
Right.
That's fabulous.
If
Go
I
ahead,
help
Kelly.
other people, I don't have to help myself.
Right.
Wow, that's a huge
That's
statement.
right. That's so right.
If I help other people, I don't have to help myself. And that is so true. I mean, do you see that a lot, David, with your first responders?
First responders that I've worked with, honestly, have when they've come in and we've gotten the work started, have all been so lost as individuals. They're sad people. They're suffering, and they're tired of suffering and feel trapped in the suffering. It's like, I need a place to start. I just need what foot do I put down first, and where do I put it? And then it's just like, God, give me a place to start the work. And I think so much of what EMDR therapy, I mean, I've got a couple referrals seeing EMDR therapists now for my coaching practice. And
Gets all excited.
Frighten me.
and you end up talking about childhood. I mean, you go in thinking, I'm going to talk about my childhood, but you end up talking about your childhood. And a lot of the EMDR training now kind of emphasizes starting early in life and going to present. When I got it, was you deal with what's going on right now. If that works out well and we got other stuff that needs to be dealt with, that'll come up. But you deal with the moment now. It's different. Training's a little different emphasis now. It's not like it's wrong, better, whatever. It's just different. And you end up going through the same shit.
Right.
Which door you go through. So it's a work that absolutely doesn't stop. It needs a place to start, and usually starts with you realizing I've got a gun in my mouth, or I'm about to put a gun in my mouth.
Right.
And then you start reaching out to people, like Mark reached out to Brian. It happens. That's the place to start. And when you find somebody and you can make a connection, and you can get in to see an EMDR therapist, or even if it's your pastor, and you sit down with your pastor and you just, God, I am just in a world of hurt. You start sharing the pain with someone. Just a regular therapist. A lot of times, Mark and I have talked about so many times, you have a general therapist, and then maybe you have a specialist who works with you on your trauma.
Right.
It resolves your trauma, and then you get back to your general therapist and you work on your relationship with your wife, your parenting, whatever. There's so many aspects to it. And just thinking in your head, this is not a thing I'll ever be done with.
Right.
Because you're never going to be done being you. You're not going to, like, all of a sudden pull the plug and become, hey, the rich dude down the street.
Right.
That's a great point.
I can tell you with the amount of money I've spent in therapy, I could own that Airstream, pay cash. I could upgrade. 25-foot flying cloud is what I could own for the money we've spent on therapy. Well, but the thing about it is, what is the true cost of therapy? And we've talked about this before. Had I blown my brains out back in whatever, when were we separated? That time, 2007. Before I started seeing David. No, 2009 was my first suicide attempt. If I'd have killed myself then, you know, what's the true cost?
Yes.
You know, and I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
But if you're in that spot, reach out.
Yeah.
You know, there's several suicide hotlines, but call that friend, you know, and I've always said, call me. I would rather sit around and talk to you about your shit than to go to your funeral and listen to your eulogy. You know, I'll gladly do that. I'll get you somewhere you need to be.
Right.
You know, or I'll just sit there and talk to you. And, you know, I'm so thankful Kelli took that time that night. And she got in a lot of trouble next day at work. But, you know, she prioritized what was more important. You know, MTC was ready to end it that night.
Yeah.
Life in general is more important than being on time for your shift.
Yeah. Well, you had some fucking meeting you had to go to. And
Yeah, I
you
don't
were
even
like,
remember
I'm
what it
sick. I can't
was.
make
Yeah.
it. And, you know, they made a big deal out of it at the agency she was working at the time. And she's like, you know, I had things. She didn't tell them what she did.
Yeah.
And believe me, nobody will be bothered if you reach out to them.
It's right.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
And they're not going to share with
Right.
everybody else either.
Just
Yeah.
yeah.
It's between you and you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good thing.
I think it's a good spot.
Yeah.
I want to just say a couple shout outs real quick.
You go right ahead.
We have an ardent group of listeners in Australia.
Thank
And
you.
They have, I think all of them, must have all checked out my LinkedIn site. Because all of a sudden, a couple of weeks ago, I had like 10 people from Australia that had checked out my LinkedIn site.
Good day, mate.
Yeah.
Put a shrimp on the bobby.
That's right.
You guys immediately
That's awesome.
start being super racist.
We love our friends down.
Yes, down under.
Down under. There we go.
I like the down under thunder.
Yeah, that's right. She likes so yeah, if you're a strapping young male and
I'm not even going there.
want to show yourself.
Back to it.
Even going there. And secondly, the mental health board here locally is going to be sponsoring a guest in September that, if you don't know this gentleman, and I don't, but he's incredible to check out. His name is Kevin Hines, Hines. He's the one who has a bunch of stuff up on YouTube and other websites and so forth. And it was running through his shit yesterday that I saw the ripple effect of suicide. And it's just like, wow, yeah, exactly. But he's somebody that Scott Medlin has worked with. He's going to be here in Troy in September when the specifics are released on tickets and stuff. You can go to the Tri-County Mental Health Board's website and catch that first information. There's going to be a lot of people that want to go to this.
We need to get him on the show then.
And I'm thinking the same.
right.
If the dude's going to be in the neighborhood,
Yeah, we need to bring him to the studio or take the studio to him. Either way.
I'm sure he needs a free meal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think it would be really cool if we could arrange that.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. His story is
yes.
amazing. He, as an adolescent, jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge
Is he the one that survived?
and survived.
Yes.
Oh, I know I know of him.
He's
Yes.
not here to talk.
Well, no. All right, that's a fair
That's
point.
in
That's a fair
spirit.
point. But I read that story recently.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sorry.
The hell
On
of a
TikTok.
story.
Yes.
The hell of a story. And
yes.
years it took for his body to simply heal from the fall, and then what he did with his insides to
Yeah.
recover from that. He's got a lot of things to say.
Wow, that's great.
So it looks,
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it. So for the general public, you can't miss. Come listen to Kevin Hines. Look him up
Right.
online, get excited about it, and then look at the Tri-County Mental Health Board's website and get the information. I got a feeling he's going to sell out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's a great
just
story.
want to make sure people knew.
So share,
Yes.
follow The Shield Within. Donnie, it's your turn, dude.
Key the
the music and rub the Buddha belly.
May your days and nights find you strong and safe. May you take your place as your family's face. As you do the shit that we won't do. As you embrace the risk you must go through. May you grow in strength and heal and find your heart, your soul, and your mind. You look at your life and grin. You have a home, the shield within.